Okay. Good morning, Kai. Welcome.
Good morning, Michelle. Good to be with you.
So happy to have you here. So tell me, what's one word that captures how you feel right now?
I would say energized and optimistic. So that's two words, but that's what I'm feeling.
Okay, great. So let's dive right in. So my first question is, what's one thing you wish you would have known when you started your career?
Definitely. I think obviously the longer you go in your career, you learn with every new experience. But I think one thing that would have been good to really know and live by from the beginning is the fact that your network is your net worth in a way, right? There's the saying. And I think that's so true. Because when I started my career, I was really priding myself in the good grades I got at school. And I was so keen to show to my first employer, all the good grades I had and what I've done, my extracurricular activities. Guess what? Nobody asked me for that, right? Obviously, you need to have a certain certification and certain results, but really it's so important who you know and also who knows you. So, really put yourself out there, utilize the amazing tools of social media, LinkedIn, such a powerful employee branding tool. So really, and network, make connections, reach out to people. I think that's so powerful and can open really doors for your career later down the road, so to say.
Yeah, what would you say when you were networking really stood out to people that captivated them or sparked interest in you?
Sure. I think it's too many people that I see, they're often talking about how great they are and bragging about their achievements and so on. But it's often you have to look on the other side of the equation, because if you want to connect with general managers, CEOs, they're being approached, hundreds of times on LinkedIn, from people who want to work with them. So rather than saying, what you want and what you're looking for, say what you can offer, the added value, what you can bring to the table. Everybody wants to have a nice paying job and, all the perks that come with it. But what can you do that others can't? What sets you apart? What makes you unique? And what can you bring to the table and your added value? So I think that's very important. And by doing this, rather than a hard sale, people naturally, want to surround themselves with you. And again, we'll talk about this more later on, but positive vibe, energy, that's somebody you want to connect with, rather than somebody says starts complaining about an experience they had maybe in your hotel or in your brand that didn't work out. Well, if I hear that as a first introduction, naturally I'm already not particularly drawn to the person. Really added value and be positive and kind to the person.
Yeah, so let's talk about added value and kindness, because I have been to your hotel. I've told you that it's one of the best experiences in a hotel that I have ever had. Talk about good vibes. Tell me, how do you do it? How do you create such good vibes in your hotel?
Well, thanks very much. It's nice to hear always. That's obviously always strive to do. So great to hear that. I don't have the one recipe I can give you to create it, but I think it, as the saying goes, fish smells from the head, right? So it always starts with the leaders of the organization. So that's myself, my managers. If we start the day being grumpy and not greeting our employees, I cannot expect them to be nice to our guests, right? So, but on the flip side, if I'm, genuinely starting the day energized, being kind, asking how they are, really having conversation and caring for them, they pay that forward to our guests, right? So it starts with us by leading by example, and we start every morning with the morning briefing with managers, where I really kind of put them into a positive mindset. It not starts by yelling or shouting, but rather, what we can focus, even if there was a complaint, look how we can deal it in a fun way, crack a little joke or something, that people really leave the meeting, happy, energized. And again, they will then meet with their teams and do the same. That's the idea. So I think these kind of points together trickle down and build a sort of, it's about the culture, right? It's not about one action and one funny meeting that you do, but really building a culture of trust, openness, being a little bit thinking outside of the box. Mistakes happen, fine. Let's deal with it. Rather than punishing you, let's learn from it. So I think often people get so bogged down on negativity and, who done what wrong. But obviously these things needs to be investigated, but really build a culture of positivity, trust, and a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I get that. And as you're doing this, I get this sort of ripple effect that everything ripples 100%. Out. And the leader always is a little bit more contagious than everyone else.
That's correct. I like the word contagious also, though I've been told during these times it's probably not the best word to use, but I still like it. Positive and contagious.
Right. So Kai, with this in mind, how do you look after your own well-being and your own vibes in order to be that leader in the morning for your teams?
100%. I think that's a really valid point, and that's what I always say when people say, "What are your values, etc." Like my number one value, even ahead of family, is my own health. And with that comes energy. Because if I'm not healthy, if I'm not energized, I cannot be there for my family, for my girlfriend, for my employees. So it really starts with me being in a strong health. And then at the same time, there's the physical aspect. But then, as you alluded to, the mental part, right? How do you keep a positive energy in times of tough times we're all going through? And really, in the hospitality industry, we've been, as you know, extremely badly affected. So how do you keep your head up high and lead by example? So various ways. I like very much exercising. That kind of empties my head and kind of puts me into a positive mindset. I like to read inspiring books. Podcasts, the one we're doing right now, but I love to listen. I'm an avid listener of various podcasts from various industries to kind of learn new things. I always like to emulate successful people and learn from them. What made them successful? What are their daily habits? What can I learn from them? And that kind of brings me joy because I can see there's more for me to learn and grow. And that kind of puts me into a positive mindset, which I can then, again, bring to my workplace and share with my employees.
Fantastic. I would love to hear a little bit about your routines or rituals, because I know you're at the hotel and you're running a 5-star hotel. Where do you find time to fit in these routines that look after your well-being?
Definitely. I think, of course, these times we're in right now, they're a little bit different than it used to be. Again, hotels are not anymore as fully booked as they were. But nevertheless, even when they were fully booked, I would always make that a priority to get enough sleep, to get enough rest. I think it's so important. Again, I always say that my waiters, my front office people, they probably physically work so much harder than me. So I have the utmost respect for them. But again, my job is not to just be hands and serve food, which of course we also do and help out when needed, but to bring vision, ideas, creativity, good vibes. And I cannot do that if I'm not, energized and in a good mood. So for me to take the time and switch off, change the location, go into the woods for a long walk. Again, as I said, daily exercise. It doesn't matter how tired I am. I really believe that motion creates emotion. So if I don't move, I just get into a very calm and mellow mood and energy level. So even when I try not to stay longer than 2 hours behind the computer, and then I would force myself to go for a long walk around the hotel, meet the people, even do push-ups in my office, just to kind of get that energy. And that helps me to stay positive. Again, in the evenings when I come back, rather than binging 2 hours on Netflix, I'll try to obviously catch up with my girlfriend of how things have been going, really take time aside for that. Listen to podcasts. Again, there's so many opportunities driving to work. When I brush my teeth, when I'm under the shower, when I shave myself. I mean, that time alone comes to almost half an hour to 1 hour in a day, right? There's always time for that. And I just pop in my headphones and listen to some inspiring interviews, etc. So again, these are knowledge nuggets, which part of them I can use for my own life and work. And that's fantastic.
So can you share a moment in which you failed at this, at managing energy, either with your team or for yourself, and what you learned from it?
Yeah, in terms of energy, again, I mean, maybe in the beginning, I when I was in Dubai, probably, or when it was my first time, becoming a general manager, you wanted to really, and I was obviously very young at the time, and all my direct reports were at least double my age. So I wanted to really, rather than through experience, impress them by sheer, time spent on the floor, so to say. So I probably, easily did 7 days a week, 12, 13 hours without any off. And it's fine for a while. But again, after a while, we're all human beings, right? I'm not here to to execute physical service, but again, my role as an executive leader of the hotel is to bring that creative input and the vision. And you can't have that if you permanently in the same environment saying the same old thing, 7 days a week for 12, 13 hours. It just doesn't work. So I realized there, and I was really feeling that I was lacking innovation and bringing something new to the table. And I felt, when I took some time to reflect, I said, I'm not living up to my expectation, what people expect from me, because I'm the leader. I should come up with new ideas and foster creativity. But if I'm just, helping the guys out on the floor, I mean, they may appreciate it in a moment. But that's not what I'm paid for, and that was a time of reflection where I said, no, I need to step away. Even sometimes you feel bad about it because, on a busy evening when the hotel's restaurant and is busy and you step aside, but you have to understand you have a different role. You are also there in times when they are not here, and you do different things. You're dealing with different responsibilities. And I think it's very important to make that distinction and take your time to reflect and re-energize.
Yeah, especially now, right? Because we really have to be creative in the middle of this pandemic. So tell me a little bit, or maybe give some tips about how to innovate and be creative during these times.
Definitely. I think one good decision was to stop reading so much news. I mean, in the beginning, I think when it all happened, we were over obsessing, permanently refreshing our Twitter feeds and news feeds of what's happening, how many cases. And I really, again, try often to self-reflect on what I'm really doing right now. And I said, listen, I mean, I cannot influence the development of the pandemic. I cannot change the count of cases. That's beyond my control. It will be what it will be. There is greater people, smarter people dealing with this. So I have to really focus on the things that what I can control, and we in the hotel can control. So I think that's already liberating to focus on the things you can control rather than on the ones you can't. And by doing so, we then, started sitting around the table, say, listen, okay, situation is bad. A lot of things we can't do. What can we do? And that's how we came up with new ideas of introducing new ideas that nobody else thought of, And again, I mean, that's not a discussion of the podcast here, but we started, for example, in-room dining for people not having a room. So you could basically walk into the hotel because restaurants were shut down. So you could come into the hotel, two of you sit in a room without renting the room. You just basically pay for the lunch that you normally do. And that's all. In a way, it's nothing revolutionary because in-room dining always existed. But having a small twist of not charging you for the room, just giving you the room, it was absolutely a bestseller. Nobody else did it. Now they all caught on, so the whole city started doing it. But we are ahead of the curve. So again, nothing revolutionary, but by sitting around the table and rather than getting depressed with these cases and oh my God, the world is ending, we said, okay, it's tough. What can we do? So I think that's super important. And the second thing, I guess, it's again not just sticking with your own industry, because right now, hospitality, hotel industry is definitely having a tough time. Okay, so let's look at the industries that are doing well. Software, fintech, food delivery companies. What are they doing differently? What can we learn from them? In terms of digitalization, they're so far ahead in terms of, cloud collaboration with each other. I mean, we are still 90% emails. I mean, that's crazy. So now, in a way, I'm happy with that difficult times. We really moved to much more, online, better communication with the team. So again, despite the tough times, learn from other industries what's working and try to implement in your own field.
That is brilliant advice. Brilliant. Something I remember about your hotel that I just loved was that moment when you gave me honey that you were making on your roof with your own bees. Like, that blew my mind, Kai. You have a lot of very unique things that you do at your hotel.
100%. I mean, nice that it's still in your mind. And I think that's what luxury hospitality is all about. I mean, we have to find these small little touch points, right? Because ultimately, we're just a building, right? I mean, at night, it's dark, you sleep, and that's all. So we are really competing with so many other buildings where you can stay, Airbnbs, right? So what makes us different? Why would you pay, 250 euros a night with us for a room? It's a nice room, but it's a room where most of the time it's dark and you sleep. So what makes us different to other hotels lower start or Airbnbs. And I guess it all comes back to the service and the service experience, right? And what is good service? Of course, you expect somebody nice to greet you and the whole service standards that you expect in a 5-star hotel. But I think it's especially these little touch points where we really pride ourselves. And when you check in, you get a glass of bubbly, which you wouldn't maybe expect in a 3-star hotel or an Airbnb. So I think it's this experience, these touch points that differentiates us and makes you memorable and sets you apart from other competitors. And again, that can be applied in so many other industries. I mean, the other day I was talking to a law company, and they asked me what they could do to differentiate themselves by service experience. And I actually went there in person. They invited me to speak there. And I said, well, to be fair, when I was greeted and I was waiting to enter the room, they offered me coffee, and the coffee was quite frankly lousy. So, you spend, let's be honest, quite a bit with the lawyer. So you would expect a good coffee. But then most people, they kind of, focus so much on their legal advice rather than the small things around. So have a receptionist or a secretary that greets you really nicely in the morning when I come to your law company, and serve an amazing espresso. Already I'm in different mindsets. So when I meet with you, I'm in different. So I think it's these small touch points that people often underestimate, but that can really go a long way.
So let's talk about a little thing that was a big thing for me. When I was at your hotel, I don't know if I'm sure you remember this, my luggage was lost. And I was so touched that you walked me, 15 minutes in the evening, when surely it was time for you to go home or do something else. You walked me to a store to get clothes. You left me at the door. I'll never forget that. I thought, I cannot believe you walked me, quite far. And that was something very impressive, Kai.
That's nice to hear. And again, these things come from the heart. I think this is something also when we look for and hire people, we don't hire by CV, but we hire by attitude. And I would say, a person that wants to work in hospitality has to be hospitable. If you're not willing to serve others, I think you're in the wrong industry. There's nothing wrong. I mean, you can be a great programmer or something else, but if you want to succeed in hospitality, you have to be hospitable and willing to serve. And that means things like that. I mean, that's not my job description to walk you there. But I love to do this because you're a great person and I love, surprising guests. And also, secondly, again, it goes back to the earlier point, talking about building a culture. So these are the stories. I mean, in this case, it was me, but the same if it was done by my receptionist, and they do amazing stuff as well that is nowhere to be found in any procedure or standard. But by telling these stories publicly, when we do our monthly town hall meetings with all employees, it inspires others. They say, wow, A, we're being recognized for that, and B, wow, that's great. I mean, I will have to find something that I can do above and beyond to delight the guests. And then, so again, by sharing these stories and telling these stories, you inspire others and you build the culture of exceeding expectations. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, it's like going the extra mile, but because you want to, not because you have to. It really
Correct.
is engagement, right? Engagement from the heart, because that's 100%. What I felt in your hotel. So what's something you can offer in terms of advice when you have an employee who's disengaged or in a bad vibe? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it always starts by having a one-to-one and really an open discussion, because we had this recently, sadly, obviously it happened a lot due to various reasons. I mean, we spoke with one person that used to be really one of our superstars, and all of a sudden we saw really a drop off in the performance. And so we had a chat with the manager and myself, and we told them what it is, and they said, yeah, well, basically, I had a person in my family pass away from COVID, which is really unfortunate. But again, it kind of, as bad as it is to hear, but it makes the person understandable. They're happy that we approach them because, sometimes they feel uncomfortable to open up about this. And we have a much better understanding, because some people would just say, bad performance, let's get rid of the person. But, we understand much better why that happens, because, of course, we're all actors sometimes. We all have bad days, but, you're still going to say, I'm doing great, everything is perfect, because that's our job. We have to be happy to the guest. The guest doesn't care if I split up with a person I love or not. They pay money, they want to see a happy smile. So we, in a certain way, all actors. But again, at the end of the day, we're all humans. So having understood that, I said, I mean, take all the time you need. Take a few days, take some of your annual leave. We'll manage without you for a while. The person really appreciated that. Came back again, taking the time to recharge, to energize, to process such an emotional trauma, and came back again, being the superstar they used to be. So that's one, obviously understanding where they come from. And secondly, there is various reasons. Some of them just, they lose track, they lose focus, they kind of all over the show. I see quite often some of them, young generation, they see me being very young. They say in the interview, I say, what do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? I want to sit where you sit. I say, well, that's great. That's what I also want to do where you are. But then, so they're very excited to become general manager or CEO of the company, but they have a different understanding of timeline. So basically they come and after 3 months, you praise them, they've done a great job and so on. So after 3 months, they come to your office, so where's my promotion? And you say, listen, it doesn't quite work like that. Obviously, I appreciate you're very ambitious and want to grow. That's great. But you need to kind of prove yourself on a consistent timeline. It's not that you do something great a few times, but again, consistently over time. So I think putting people into that mindset and understanding that, a good career takes time and you have to consistently add value to the organization.
That's great, because I did want to ask you, what advice would you give to young people out there who want to work, who aspire to have a position like yours, in addition to what you just said? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, again, it comes back to being very clear on your vision, what you really want, because I think in the times we're living in, it's, our grandparents probably didn't have that problem because there was like 2-3 options you do, and that's what you do for the next 60 years. I think it's beauty in the times we're living in. You can do anything. You can become a world-famous person dancing on TikTok, right? And make a great income from that. So there's millions of opportunities out there. But I think once you're very clear on what you want to do, that's great. You want to be general manager, fantastic. You want to be the best sommelier in the world, amazing. You want to be the best waiter in the world, amazing. Not everybody has to be a general manager. That's one of the options. So I would say, be clear. You want to be a generalist. I would consider myself a generalist. I'm not as expert in one particular field, but I know a little bit of everything. Others should be a specialist to know really everything about one thing, right? And I think that's very important to make the distinction. And not one is better than the others. You need specialists and you need generalists. It's important to know what you want. Be ambitious, because I see both. I see some are super ambitious, like I said, the person wants to be GM in 5 years. That's maybe a bit super ambitious, but some are also too modest. They say, I want to be waiter and then let's see how it goes. So they're going to be waiter for the next 10 years. Again, nothing wrong with that, but if you want to progress, I think you should set yourself also some challenging goals. And then again, going back to the added value. So how can you do added value as a waiter? Well, by just going the extra mile. We all have our job, what we do, and that's fine. But again, in case a guest asks for specific cereals that are not on offer, and I had that in our hotel, a really particular guest, long stay guest, and she always wanted particular cereal that we couldn't offer. And all the waiters said, we can't. So one waitress said, we don't have right now, but give me a day, I'll arrange it. So she went on her own with her own money. And the cereal doesn't cost much, but still, from a waiter's salary to pay your own for the cereal, bought it and came back and had it for the next 2 weeks that they stay with us. I got a long letter from that guest, praised that particular person. So, what happens to me? We have 20 waitresses. So, just by that all small act alone, I have her name. It's in my mind. Already she's on my watch list, right? I say, wow, if she does that consistently over time, and I say, I'm not talking about 1 month, 2 months, 3 years, but she does that 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Guess what? When it comes to the moment of promotion, I will think of her rather than, the others who've done a good job, but just a good job. So again, going the extra mile, helping other departments, you see on the weekend they're busy. Sorry, can I help and help you out? Great, So again, putting yourself out there, offering more than what is asked of you, and over time, you make yourself visible, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and we're back to the subject of good vibrations, because that is exactly that, right? She's creating good vibrations in that moment, and that guest is very likely going to come back over and over again to your hotel because of that moment.
100%.
That extra mile.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. So here's another question for you personally as a leader. 15, 20 years from now, when you look back on this time of your life, what do you think will be most important to you?
When I look back in 15 years?
Yeah, 15, 20 years, when you look back on this time, what do you think will be most important?
Again, I want to, I suppose, be known or remembered as somebody who genuinely cared about others and didn't take advantage of anybody, but genuinely cared to help them succeed in their own career. Like for me, it's one of the greatest pleasures when I still have to this day, people who I was working or managing with 6-7 years ago, who write me today and thanking me that they are where they are because of one thing I said to them at the time or the opportunity gave them. So seeing people succeed and having impacted their life, for me, it's really such a rewarding thing, which I'm grateful to be in a position to do that. So I think I want to be known and remembered for some like an enabler for other people's career in a way. Again, for spreading good moods, good energy, good vibrations. A positive person. When they hear my name, say, yeah, a person I want to be a friend with, associated with. And I think that's for me very important. Success is not about how much money you make. Of course, it's a byproduct. I think if you consistently add value, help people and so on, naturally people are willing to pay you and hire you and what have you. But I don't think it's a pure product, because that would mean that somebody who earned or got lucky in a casino and is a millionaire, he is more successful than a professor who earns less. So, money is just an arbitrary number. But I think true success is in your own happiness and the fact that you can help others. I would say that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we're in a period of time in which we are all redefining what success really means.
Definitely.
I always say that I have been a successful mother, for example. If my kids at the end of their lives look back and say that they have loved their life, that they've been in love with their life, I think that that's the definition of success, being in love with life.
Beautiful, exactly. I mean, my grandparents, as I said, they didn't have so many options. They couldn't travel. They didn't have the access to internet. But I would say they had a successful life. They've been married for 60 years. They're healthy. They love each other. They live in a nice little house. So, in today's standards, maybe it wouldn't be anything special. But when I look at them and at the time, I think absolutely successful lives. So yes, we sometimes focus on these kind of vanity metrics. I would say, how many followers, how many cars, and these are just byproducts. This is not how you define success, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of your grandparents and your parents, what's a piece of advice that your parents gave you that's still with you and inspiring you today?
Good question.
Or your grandparents, either one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say one specific sentence that they say to me. I think it's more, again, the sort of culture they instilled in me. I mean, first of all, they were not really fond of me working in hospitality. I really had to fight for them to support me in that endeavor. They always said, if everything else fails, you can always end up in hospitality and carry the plates, right? That was kind of their mentality. But I guess now they changed their mind and they're happy that I'll do what I love. But I guess, they really instilled in me the culture of hard work, of do your very best, whatever you pursue, but do your very best. I mean, all my granddad, my dad, my mom, they're all entrepreneurs, and they all started with nothing. They basically came from nothing and built their way up. So again, that hard work mentality, and whatever you do, and again, they even said, okay, now you're in hospitality, fine, we accept it, but just do your very best. Like whatever career you pursue, even if I would have become a gamer, become the best gamer in the world, just push yourself so much harder. And I think that's beautiful, because so many parents I see these days, they kind of pushing their kids, you have to become a doctor or a lawyer, or a pilot. Initially, my mom wanted me to become a pilot or a marine officer because she liked uniforms so much, But I think that's kind of not good advice if you force someone into a specific direction. Give them the white canvas, whatever they want to do with their life, support them, but hold them accountable. So if you want to be whatever it is, but become the best version in that specific field. Yeah.
And I think that really is true of you. because speaking of uniforms, I mean, you do have a uniform. You are a snazzy dresser. I remember when I met you in the first leadership program that I led in Vienna. We were in Vienna, right?
That's true.
And I remember that my first impression of you was like, wow, he is a good dresser.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
The only thing, I think during lockdown, the only thing I got rid of my tie. So I'm hoping that will come back one day. But I guess other than that, I still like to look sharp. I guess that's part of the job.
Yeah. So in terms of fashion and trends, what is a trend you would like to bring back? If you could bring back some fashion trend, what would you bring back from the past?
I think, in general, the pride people take in looking sharp, I think it's become really a trend to look like super fashionable and just relaxed style, which I understand during lockdown and COVID when 99% of the time you spend at home. But I guess that kind of cool look from all these Silicon Valley entrepreneurs with only one gray shirt and the jeans, I think it's fine for that particular niche. But again, I think in hospitality, we have to remember that, people, they come to a luxurious environment and they pay for a beautiful room, a nice lobby and the decoration. But when you come and you see somebody all scruffy and dandruff on the shoulder and not really nicely ironed, I think it paints a wrong picture. And so I think we should really take pride in the way our appearance, because I always say you only have a first, there's no second chance for first impression, right? So, as superficial as it may sound, it is true. The first time you see somebody, you immediately make a judgment. And you said the same. When you saw me, you had an opinion. So I think it's important to really take pride and try to look as sharp as possible, whatever it may be in your industry. You can look sharp in yoga clothes. You can look sharp as an artist. Just being conscious about the power of appearance. I think that's important.
Yeah, and if we go back to the subject of contagion and energy, I know that you brought so much energy to the trainings. Both trainings that we had together, it had me want to give you more. Because it is contagious. You bring more, you contribute more in the course. It has me want to give you more. It 100%. Is this kind of beautiful synergy that happens when a person brings 100%.
You kind of feed off each other, and I think when you said before, what gives me energy on the same time, and that's definitely speaking to people who are energized themselves. But if I sit around in the morning briefing, I come all hyped up and energized and ready to conquer the hotel world, and all my managers are sitting here with long faces and telling me about their problems and why things can't be done. That's going to drain my energy, right? So then I have two options. I mean, obviously, one is to find a way to get them to change their mindset and get to a positive, energy level and outlook on life. Or, and that's obviously less preferred, but sometimes needed thing, you have to change your environment, because, if I'm the only one bringing that energy and positivity and everybody around me it doesn't work. So you have to find your environment, your people you work with that help you to push yourself also further, that challenge me in a positive way, right? And like you said, you are definitely one of the most energetic persons I know myself. So whenever I speak with you in the trainings, all of us, we left out and said, wow, I mean, Michelle, she really brings the fire. You always feel good leaving your trainings, and that's amazing. And I want the same with my people of my circle of influence and circle of managers.
Yeah, that's so good. It's really who you surround yourself with, and being aware that we're constantly influencing each other, and a leader needs to be very conscious about how he's influencing or she's influencing the people Definitely. Around, and also knowing how to get away from those energy vampires, right? Those people who bring you down, who have low vibes, and you try first, of course, to raise the energy.
Definitely.
But if you can't do that, you've got to learn how to step away and take care of yourself.
Yeah, and just on that point, I mean, I obviously give also trainings to our guys here and on mindset and positivity. And they ask me, let's say a waiter, and say, listen, I mean, at home, maybe they have sick parents at home, so obviously they talk a lot about the sickness. Then they have, let's say, some friends from school that are unemployed and started drinking. So their influence, their circle of influence is maybe not the most positive. So they ask me, so how can I become positive? And I said, fair enough. I mean, I understand you don't know, maybe 20 millionaire startup founders, right? That's totally fine. But again, power of the internet, when you go home, of course, you can't abandon your family and you have to deal with them, and you're not going to overnight abandon your old school friends because, they're still your friends. But again, the time you do have, make time available 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, read a book of an inspirational leader, listen to a great podcast. And in that way, you kind of feel like you're connecting with them and learning from them, even though you don't personally know them and they don't know you, but you can learn from them and their experience. And that helps you to shape your mindset. And I think that's so powerful. So there's really no excuse that you don't personally know somebody. You can just emulate them by listening to them, reading their books, or watching. I'm a big believer of YouTube University. I think there's so much great content out there free, and you can learn a great deal from that.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to ask you, what books or podcasts you recommend? Because I know there's a lot of free material out there, and even the material that you have to pay for, it's not very expensive. Any resources you'd like to share with the listeners that you recommend?
Definitely. I mean, obviously, there's so many great books out there. One that really shaped me early on, was probably one of the first personal development books I read, was the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's really very simply written, but very beautifully put in a way where he basically explains again the concept of doing good things over time. It's like an exponential growth, like compound interest. Those of you who know what is compound interest, that you do the good thing, it will take a long time where you plateau, that you don't see a big thing. It's like going to the gym tomorrow and you spend 3 hours in the gym, nothing will change. Like your life won't change, you won't lose weight on it. You do it 1 week, nothing will change. 1 month, maybe small change. You do this for 5 years, 6 years consistently, and you start seeing huge change compared to the person who went tomorrow drinking with his friends 10 beers and had 3 burgers. The day after, you look the same. But again, do this over time. You go exercise and eat healthy food. That person goes drinking every night and eats bad food. Over time, there will be huge difference. And that's what sometimes people underestimate, the power of time, and doing consistently good things over time will yield great results. So I really love that book, beautifully written. If you're a CEO or a waiter, you can both understand it, and it really hit home with me.
I love that, Kai, because so often young people feel sort of invincible, that you can do all sorts of things and handle it because you're young. And the truth is that over time, yes, maybe it's true, you're resilient, but it's about habit building. And it's very difficult to get out of those habits in your 40s if you've been doing them for 10 years, right?
100%, definitely. Everybody wants to now go viral and be the next hit. But even if you want to be a YouTuber, I encourage people to do a YouTube channel. I think that's fantastic. You can share a message to the world. But guess what? It doesn't come with 1-2 videos. You have to put out hundreds of videos, and then over time, your odds of being found and being visible are increased. And the same is true with so many things. So again, you really have to take a longer look on timing.
Yeah, and I can bring that back again to energy and what we're fueled by, because if you're connected to a sense of purpose and providing value to other people, you have the stamina and the energy to stay the course, to do it over and over again, because you're not doing it to get immediate results, but actually to provide value out there. And for me, it's if you provide value to 2 people or 2,000 people, you're providing value.
Sure, exactly. The delayed gratification, I think it's a beautiful concept that, you do something good and eventually it will come back to you, but you don't expect results right now. Just because you've done one good deed, that come back to you. But again, you've done something consistently over time, and eventually there will be good times for you, because people see you doing well and performing, and over time you will get rewarded for it. But don't just do it with the reward in mind that you start something. Rather, let it be an added benefit of your actions.
Right, and there's something to be said about the confidence of when you do something good, there is a ripple effect, right? We started there talking about the ripple effect of the leader, but anything you do that's positive in life does have a ripple effect, and you may not see it, but it's out there. It's out there energetically. You've set it into motion.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think we can start wrapping it up. And another thing I want to say, Kai, that I remember, and I told you I couldn't remember if it was from the first module of leadership that we did or the second one, but that you are an amazing dancer. So I wanted to ask, because I dance in all my courses, and people believe that with Zoom and online courses, we can't have fun anymore, but we can. Would you be willing to dance with me for a moment to close this this podcast.
Let's do it. I've gotten a bit rusty since the lockdown. All the bars and clubs have been closed. I'm a bit rusty, but let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Great answer. And yeah, and before we go there, because that's the last bit, any last kind of wrapping up, like one line piece of advice for leaders out there in these times for keeping their vibes, up?
I would say definitely don't overindulge in negative news and overread the cases and so on. I think really it doesn't help you. So stop reading too much news. Instead, read inspiring things, like listen to great podcasts like yourselves. Read great books. Really, see what is possible and what you can control. And lastly, look after yourself. Look after your health, your energy, your mental health. Whatever it is, whatever it takes for you. It can be watching a comedy movie, it can be listening to great music, can be dancing, can be eating your favorite food, but put yourself in a positive, energetic state. And I think with those three things together, any crisis will pass eventually and will come out brighter on the other side.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Kai. And I would add that you also choose the people you surround yourself with, because you will have moments where you get down and it's not always your responsibility to keep the vibe positive. Sometimes you might need somebody to help lift you up, and you surround yourself with the right people and you have that.
Definitely. And I also must say a big thanks to you, Michelle. I mean, we had various trainings with you and they've been always definitely impactful and a lot of actionable advice and lessons I learned and still used to this very day. So really appreciate you for what you do, spreading the good vibes. I'm happy to see you now much more on social media, which is great. The world needs to hear your voice and your message. So thanks for all you've done also.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put our song on and we can dance a little bit.
Let's do it.
I'll lower the volume and we can say goodbye. I'm so happy you're willing to dance with me, because this is just, talk about good vibes. This is a way to bring good vibes.
I guess you're playing some Latin songs?
Let's see if you like this song. What do you think? Feeling
energized.
Amazing. done. Wouldn't it be great to start every workday like that?
Definitely. I'll do that tomorrow morning with my guys before the morning briefing.
There is nothing like music to change the vibe.
For sure. Look how already we're feeling smiling, energized. I mean, it always works. It always works.
So much fun. Thank you so much. It is so lovely to see you. I have to say that you have been my star participant in my leadership programs.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
That's why I came to you. You lead by example and you are an inspiration. Look at him out of breath. I out there and run more. Anyway, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Michelle. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the great work, and yeah, love your journey and all the best for it.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch over social media.
Will do for sure. Will do for sure. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.